Hi, my name is Keith Cooper, Northlight Images, and in this short video I'm having a look at another one of Hahnemühle's new papers that have brought out recently. I looked at the bamboo gloss recently. This one there is matte fine art, 308 gram. I put the specs up for it and put notes for it in the notes to the video if you're curious. It's photo rag. The Hahnemühle photo rag line has been around for a while. This is 308 gram, an immediate one. If I ever see 308 gram, I know it's a Hahnemühle paper, and it's matte Baryta. Now, what does that really mean? Well, I've been printing a few examples, and I'll show another one in a moment. It's a not that thick paper. Feels quite stiff. But it has a very smooth matte Baryta, smooth white, natural white, no OBAs, so great for archival purposes. Lovely smooth surface finish on it. And I've been testing stuff, some pictures I took recently when I was just out, just trying another lens, and some black and white stuff as well. And it has, as a matte finish, it's very good. Now, I've profiled it, so I will have profiles. I'm testing it here on the Epson P5300, that's a 5370 in the States. It's a new printer that Epson have brought out. It's the inkset of the P900, P700 in the chassis of the P5000. So it has roll paper support. Anyway, I've got lots of stuff about the P5300. It's a very nice printer. But I want to see how these pigment inks perform on this paper. Now, for the black and white shot I've got here, this is one I took on the Oregon coast a while ago, and I've printed this one because it has some very nice tonality in it, and it needs not overly dark blacks in it. So if you print this on a normal Baryta paper, it can come out a little overly contrasty. Now that's why you might choose this. Now some people like matte papers like this. If you're going to really push, if you want to push the density of the blacks, and if you really want to push the colours, then you're going to go for a Baryta style paper, or even a luster, perhaps a gloss, although gloss is not one of my favourite finishes on this particular printer here. It's pigment ink. If you want high gloss, you go for dyes and the limitations that brings in types of printers and things, but the detail is very nice, and it comes across in this partly because just the smooth finish. Now I'll show an example here of what this picture looks like. Now I'm cutting in some video clips I took on my iPhone, so they're not the steadiest necessarily, but I hope they bring out some of the tonality of the image. But I'll just kick this print off here. I've loaded it in sheet. You could probably use the cassette, but I'm not sure. I have noticed, and this is actually because of the size of this printer, this is our kitchen, because of the changing atmosphere in here, the prints that I've left out have taken on a little bit of a curl. Now they come out of the box okay, box A3 Plus here, they're okay out of the box, but do be careful if you expose the paper to changes in humidity and the likes, because it will curl slightly, and if it curls slightly that increases the chances of getting head strikes on the corners here. So keep the paper, when not in use, keep it in its plastic bag, keep it in the box, and watch out for curl. It's not, I've seen far worse, but it's just something that you just have to be wary of. Now I've got an image here I'm going to print off. The image I'm printing is one of my commercial pictures. It's a picture of a disk drive, disassembled disk drive, and I want it to see what the fine detail looks like, which I know is good on this, but also how it handles the tonality of shiny bits of metal. There we go, paper being drawn in. Tells me it's going to take 7 minutes. Well, it's a little bit generous. When it says 7 minutes, I expect it will be 5 or 6. For some reason this tends to come out slightly overestimate. Anyway, I can hear it's printing okay, but as I said, this nicer, it's very smooth. You can tell which surface it is because there's a slight bit of texture on the rear side of the paper there. Now this particular shot here, and the tones come out very nice on this, and you'll see, I'll move it around, there's no reflection in the lighting here or the lighting up the top. This particular picture, this is in Bradgate Park, just outside Leicester where I live. This was the home of Lady Jane Grey, who was Queen for a few days before meeting her demise. I've been testing here. This is taken with a GFX 100S, so 100 megapixel, no shortage of detail. The lens I was taking was an Astra Horry 75mm f4 manual focus lens that I was looking at. And this is taken at f8, and for a cheap medium format lens, it's not too bad. Now I will be doing a bit more testing of this lens, but I just happened to have it with me, wanted to have a go with it. But the colours, if you know the park, it's a deer park, so the browns and the sort of greens are very much the colours of Bradgate Park at this time of year. It's caught up, and it's fairly low sunlight, and it's caught up some of the lighting on the brickwork here. This was really just a picture just to test for detail, but the delicacy of the colour works really well, which suggests, I had no difficulty in profiling it. Likewise, there's another shot looking at distance. This one is slightly hazy, but no shortage of detail in it whatsoever, which comes round again to what pictures would you want to print on a paper like this. Now, personally, I prefer stuff that's perhaps just a little bit more textured and a thicker paper. But looking at these prints, I can see once they're framed, nobody's going to notice the thickness and weight of paper. 308 grams is a thinnish paper for art papers, what I think. But this one is a cotton rag base. It's a Baryta. There are no OBAs, so it's a sort of picture that if you want it for archival purposes, as long as your inks are up to it, this one will do fairly well. Anyway, it's coming out here, and I can see the detail. Yeah, that's going to look fine. But this is one of the things of the sort of testing I do with paper, and I've done some, produced some profiles. Oh, by the way, for the ABW mode, for the black and white print, when I was doing the profiling and testing, I found that I needed no adjustment in tone, tilt, in tint, or I didn't even need to linearize it with this particular printer and this paper. So this is the printed using the Epson ABW mode, and this is the out-of-the-box settings. All the default settings, it prints fine. That's nice to know when you're printing, because it means you don't have to worry about tonality changes. Somebody asked me the other day, in fact, when I was editing stuff for black and white, did I clip the blacks and whites on the paper, on the image before printing it? On the blacks, on the grounds that anything that was near black was going to come out black anyway, and anything that was near white, well, you didn't want the paper white with no ink on it. Well, maybe for a glossy photo where I haven't tested it and I don't know the characteristics of the paper, that's maybe. But for a picture like this, there is important detail in deep shadows. And because of the testing I've done on the paper beforehand, I know that that deep shadow, if the deep shadow is visible on my screen, because it's a calibrated monitor, then the deep shadow is going to work out here. Now, I may need to adjust the overall lightness of the picture, depending on lighting and things like that. I may need to alter these things, but I don't clip before printing at all. Similarly for this, there is no difference in reflectivity and shine on it that I can see between the paper white parts of the image and where there is ink on it. So you don't need to worry about clipping your white point either to avoid paper whites. Now that's something, if you're doing luster and glossy papers, particularly with pigment inks, Depends very much on the paper, but sometimes you do need to reduce your white point a little, from 255, say, to about 250, or maybe even a little bit below that, so that there is some ink even on the brightest white parts of the image. Now on this, there's no need for doing that whatsoever. Don't need to clip blacks, don't need to clip the whites, which means that I go back to what I see on the screen is much closer to what I get. Obviously the tonal difference is going to be different, but differences between screen and print, not that much. Helps having a good printer, a good paper, and settings. Now, a metallic, a glossy thing, and very reflective, it's a disk drive, a dismantled disk drive. This one had broken down somewhere. I don't have quite the shine I'd get off a metallic gloss paper, but if I was wanting a good image on a metallic gloss paper, I would have needed to print using, probably with dye inks, to get the best from this. So it has a crispness. I'll show some, as I say, I'll cut some details in of some of these pictures, so try and give you an idea of it. It's an interesting paper. Once again, I thank Hahnemühle for asking me to have a look at it, because they knew I'd got this printer, and this is still one of the few P5300s in the UK, so they'd got a few papers that they wanted me to have a look at. Yeah, it's a nice one. One slight bit, as I say, to mention on it is just do watch out for when the print's dry, and if you leave them out, they can just take on a slight, ever so slight curl. But it's a slight curl like that that can get you head strikes on the corners of things like that. And you don't really want to be wasting a nice paper like this with something like that. Anyway, if you've got any questions, let me know. Please do subscribe to the channel. I have lots of stuff like this, and technical and photography related stuff. So any questions, let me know. I've still got this here for a few weeks yet. I'm still waiting for some more. The light grey ink is almost out on this one, so it does limit what I can do a little bit. But Epson are trying to get me some more ink so I can finish my testing. But there you have it. Hahnemühle fine art, matte fine art paper. And there we are. Get rid of the reflection on that, and that's it. So, thanks for watching.